Women are constantly on the move. Through choice or chance, their lives are often in transition. Today's woman may start a career, then interrupt it for a few months or several years to have children. She may work from home, start a business, divorce, remarry. In fact, the one sure thing is that sooner or later she's going to have to learn how to handle money. And it's better to start sooner.
Women really have to think single throughout their lives because chances are they're going to be single. Some women may never marry, but even if a woman marries, the likelihood is that she's going to be single either because of divorce or because of widowhood at some point during her life. And she doesn't want to be caught unawares.
Surprisingly, a lot of successful, high-earning women, business executives, business owners, have invested a lot in learning their own business and their own career, but they haven't invested the same amount of time in learning good personal money management.
Women's financial circumstances are different. Women live a lot longer than men do. Women go in and out of the workforce, and they need to plan a little differently and focus their investment a little differently.
The women you're going to meet are all taking more control of their finances. Some because they chose to, some because they had to.
The worst thing that can happen is that suddenly she finds herself alone and at sea with all these financial matters that someone else used to handle for her.
It's important, especially for women, to remember that as time goes by, their needs will change, their goals will change. And in order to be equipped for that change, they need to have knowledge of their financial options. And if they have this knowledge, then they're prepared to cope with change as it occurs.
Janet is comfortable taking a few risks now. At 41, she plans to be productive for another 20 years. And now she helps steer the financial course she and her husband take. But it wasn't always smooth sailing for Janet. She was a homemaker, the mother of 2 small children, when her first husband died suddenly at the age of 36. He left no will, no life insurance, and 2 lawsuits she knew nothing about. She was 30 years old.
It was horrible. At one moment you're terrified because you're going to face the world alone. You're also terrified because you have all of these financial burdens. And I remember the feeling of being vulnerable and thinking that everyone was going to take what little money I had. My husband generally paid the bills and made most of the financial decisions because I knew nothing. I did not know the difference between a stock and a bond.
After 6 years working as a registered nurse, sorting out her husband's estate, raising her sons on her own, Janet married again, this time with a new attitude toward finances.
When I remarried, I made it a point from day one that I wanted to know everything that was going on. So I've really changed my life and really turned it around.
Janet set upon a course of self-education. She changed careers, working at the office of her second husband, Dan, an estate planning attorney. Then she took a job in the financial services industry.
I had an insatiable urge to learn about investments and learn about money.
Now Janet handles the household budget, which includes the mortgage on their home and the upkeep on the avocado farm it looks out on. She also has to plan for college for her 2 sons and her husband's 2 daughters, all teenagers.
We have 10 years of college expenses. We just started this year. It's going to require a great deal of financial sacrifice on our part.
But Janet feels confident about the future. This time she's part of a financial team. She's made sure they have life and disability insurance. She knows what they're investing in. She's helping make the decisions.
I was a homemaker, and very happy to be a homemaker. And I never once thought that what I was doing wasn't important. But you still need to be an active decision maker because that's the security of your family. It's your children's education. It's your retirement. It's the financial health of your family.
If you're a married woman and you don't have a clear sense of the major financial elements of your family, Make an appointment, a financial summit once a year with your husband to sit down, get out all the key documents, get out the accounts, get out pension documents from your husband's job, get out life insurance policies, your wills. Take a look at these things so you can familiarize yourself with all the key elements of your family's financial security.
It's really important for women to take an interest in their financial future if they want to be independent in whatever circumstance they might find themselves.
Knowledge is the first step. Then you have to have an action plan.
CBS News.
For a woman not long out of college, Michelle has achieved a lot. Her position on the assignment desk at CBS News gives her a high profile and a bright future. But along with learning the news business, she's had to educate herself about handling money, a subject neither her parents nor her peers ever discussed.
We did clap hands, till Daddy came home. Daddy has money and Mommy has none. And my mother, I never saw my mother with any money. It was always, go ask your father for money. I mean, for the simplest things, like if you wanted chewing gum or if you wanted to go to the store or even if the ice cream truck came through, go ask your father. And then when I went to college, I went to Harvard and Radcliffe. No one's talking about money because most of the people there have money. And it's kind of déclassé to talk about money. And then as a black person there, and I was on scholarship, I was kind of even ashamed to talk about my lack of money. Over there is the anchor desk where Dan and Connie sit for the evening news. And this is where their producers sit here.
Now that she's working, Michelle's financial awareness is growing. The job may be glamorous, but the paycheck just barely covers rent, utilities, college loan repayments, and paying off credit card debts. She's working to get a handle on her cash flow. The biggest challenge is to control her use of credit cards and cash machines.
I think that's been my death, knowing that I could just walk up to and punch a few buttons and get cash. The way I'm trying now is I got a book on budgeting, and the book came with a little planner of how you should budget your money. So when I get my check, before I get my check, I go and I fill in what I anticipate spending and what I actually spend, and I've been doing that for the last 3 months.
What Michelle is doing is a perfect way to get a handle on your expenses. You don't have to do it forever, but a month or 2 or 3 is a fine way to find out where your money is going for people of any age. But especially when you're young, it lets you know where the expenses are going so that you know where you can get the money you need to save. And you really need to start saving when you're young. It sounds tough, you're not making a lot of money, but it never gets any easier. Just wait till you're 40 years old and have 3 kids and try to save money then.
What they need to do is follow a concept called paying yourself first. Put a deposit to your savings or investment account at the top of the list, right up there with the mortgage, the utilities, things of that sort.
Young people may not have a lot of money, but what they do have plenty of is time. And you can't underestimate the power of time when it comes to money. Even small amounts of money put away in your 20s can grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars, literally, by the time you're ready to retire.
Michelle budgets only for her own needs right now. But for people like Donna, the budgeting and the responsibilities are more complex.
Right now we're saving for our children's education and to put something aside for savings.
Her sons are the focal point of her days. She chose to stay home with them, leaving her job as a paralegal. But she's also handling the finances for a company she and her husband own. And that makes for a very busy schedule.
It gets to be fun some days because I don't have daycare or a babysitter on a regular basis to watch the kids.
When the children are in preschool, Donna drops by the repair shop she and her husband own to pay the bills and check on overdue accounts. But like many women juggling children and a job, she often brings work home. That's where she catches up with the family finances as well, when her husband Bob, who also works with his father in the steel business, is available for childcare duty.
After he's done putting in his 14-hour day, then he takes the kids and keeps them occupied while I finish up my things that I have to get done.
Long hours, hard work. Donna and her husband have tried to make the most of them.
A few years back when the interest rates went down in savings accounts and CDs, we decided that we would put the money that we normally would be spending into paying off the mortgages on our house. We have now succeeded at that, and are mortgage free in our home. And we are now looking into investing what we normally would be paying.
That means they've been able to start setting aside money for the children's future, as much as they can every month. And they've purchased property adjoining their home from which they get some rental income. Bob and his dad also invest in antique trucks, though more for love than money. Bob frankly admits being much more conservative than his wife. It's his influence that keeps about 50% of their assets in cash, while Donna prefers stocks or mutual funds.
She's bugging me to do some other investing, and she's very up on what's going on, and I'm very not up on what's going on. I'm too busy working, so I do listen to her, and we make some outside investments.
I do the research. For mutual funds, I get the prospectuses. I watch the prices in the newspapers. It's almost become a hobby to me, where some people might do knitting or crocheting. I research stock.
Donna likes to focus on companies in her community, like Fisher-Price, now a subsidiary of Mattel. With her own children trying out toys at the research center, Donna feels she can be confident in the quality of the company she's investing in. It's part of her overall commitment to being very careful with her finances.
My husband works awful hard, and I work hard at doing what we've done, and we're very disciplined as far as what's going to happen with the dollars that we make. We work too hard to spend them frivolously.
Donna and Bob have done a very good job of acquiring assets at this point in their lives. They've really done very, very well. They've got a lot of real estate. They've got a lot of cash. Generally, for a couple their age, you would expect that they should be diversified a bit out of that cash, because as you look down the road, they're going to need opportunities to make more than 3 or 4 or 5% on their money. The way to do that is through mutual funds, through the stock market, with a long-term view. In this case, Bob probably should be listening to Donna.
Paying off the mortgage on your house may not always be a smart move financially, because the equity in your home may not be growing as fast, appreciating as rapidly as other investments that you might buy with that money instead.
It is nice to own your own home, there's no question about that, but you can own your own home and still carry a mortgage. Not all debt is bad debt.
Bad debt is borrowing to buy something that's going to be gone by the time the bill arrives.
Women and men in our consumer-oriented society have difficulty handling credit. Things our grandparents would have deferred can be ours immediately, just by saying, "Charge it, please." The easy availability of credit can lead to difficulties, as Michelle learned in college.
People send you credit cards. You don't have to send applications for them. You get pre-approved, here you go. And I was just behind, and I've stayed behind. So it's been a long crawl up from that black hole of the credit card abyss.
A credit card caused one of Janet's painful learning experiences as well.
And it wasn't that I was a spendthrift and I was going around charging everything. It just, over time, it grew a little larger than I was comfortable with, and of course it took a longer period of time to pay it off.
The wisest credit course is to pay all revolving credit off every month. That doesn't mean no credit is good credit, however. You need to develop a track record as a borrower, a track record in your own name.
It's important for women to have credit in their own name, so that if there comes a time where they have to apply for credit based on their own credit record, there is a credit history for lenders to look at. If you're married, that doesn't mean you need to use your maiden name, but you shouldn't use Mrs. John Jones. Use Jane Jones instead.
All women are protected by the Federal Equal Credit Opportunity Act. It by no means guarantees you credit. It does mean your credit worthiness must be evaluated on the same basis as men.
Before 1974, when that was passed, women often required a co-signer to get credit. They were asked about their childbearing plans. Sometimes they even had their credit cards pulled when they got married, because why did they need credit in their own name? Since then, lenders cannot discriminate against women based on their gender, and it's much easier for women to get credit. The next challenge is how to handle it.
How much is too much? One guideline is to keep all borrowing except a home mortgage below 20% of your take-home pay. And remember, borrow with the future in mind.
You can borrow money for education because education is an investment in future earnings. Use credit wisely only to buy things that are still going to be around tomorrow, not for current living.
An example of good debt would be borrowing to buy your home. That's an asset that's going to appreciate over time.
I bet there are lots of kids on this block.
Buying a home. It's the best way to ensure forced savings and investing and a tax shelter, all rolled into one. For Gina and her daughter Danielle, it also means a way to leave apartment living behind.
My daughter would like a swing set, i.e. a backyard, and I would like some outdoor space.
Gina is off to a good start. She owns the cooperative apartment where she and her daughter live. As a trader for a large brokerage firm, she has a good understanding of interest rates, adjustable mortgages, and the tax advantages of owning a home. But she says a real estate agent and a bank can answer a lot of preliminary questions before you even start looking.
I think the first step is going into your local bank and just sitting down and talking to someone, because that's what they're there for. They're there to answer your questions.
In addition to a bank, you can get a pretty good idea of how much home you can afford by talking to your real estate agent, who can look it up in charts.
This is convenient because this is where the after-school program is going to be.
What Gina can afford in this affluent suburb is not everything she wants.
Taxes are much higher on this house.
She chose the location because of its excellent schools. But this is a town that stretches even two-income families, and Gina, divorced, is a single parent. So this expensively renovated home is not the answer. Working with her realtor, Gina keeps the standard formula in mind. Housing costs, including monthly principal, interest, property taxes, and homeowner's insurance, should not exceed 28% of your household's monthly gross income. This 90-year-old Victorian might be the solution. It doesn't look like a dream house now, but it has potential. And because it needs work, it's a lot more house for the money.
The biggest problem in these houses for me is the closet space.
Of course, buying a house like this means Gina will need extra cash over and above her down payment, moving, and settlement costs.
Which house did you like better?
Gina and Danny may be outgrowing their apartment, but it turned out to be a good savings program. Like many co-ops, this one required a 50% down payment, equity to leverage into her new house, on which she plans to put down about 20%.
Maybe a little more, only because I'm pretty conservative and I don't want to have a huge mortgage, but that'll obviously depend on what the purchase price of my home is.
A 10 to 20% down payment is the minimum most banks require. Additional costs to move will be points the lender charges up front. Each point is 1% of the mortgage amount. If the home is a principal residence, these points, like the interest payments and property taxes, are tax deductible. Other settlement costs will include title insurance and legal fees if a lawyer is helping to make arrangements.
Some women worry that their income isn't adequate for them to buy a home on their own, and so they're tempted to go into the arrangement with someone else, with another woman. This can really open a big can of worms, a very deep, complicated can of worms. There are questions about who's going to get most of the tax write-offs on the mortgage payment, what happens if the other party moves out or gets married or loses a job. It can be very complicated, which is why the way Gina is doing it is the best and the smartest, the simplest and the cleanest way. Do it yourself, take the responsibility yourself.
Your home should not be your only long-term investment. Your mortgage payment should not be so big that there's no money left over to put into that IRA, the 401k, good stock mutual funds, things of that sort.
What kind of investment options you choose depends on your needs, your goals, and your personality. But every woman should be thinking about investing, no matter what her circumstances. Consider Wanda, who was newly divorced and on welfare in 1972. A credit union manager encouraged her dream of starting a college fund for her baby daughter.
Looked at him incredulously and said, "Well, I'm on welfare." He says, "It takes only $5 to start." So I did.
From a start of $5 a month, Wanda watched the college fund grow. When she got a job, she increased her monthly investment and turned to the stock market with some of the profit. 2 decades later, as a writer and lecturer on women's finances, her investment philosophy has seen her daughter through college, provided a down payment on a house, plus a $300,000 nest egg. She continues to invest in securities with the same strategy.
To give an example, I have an IRA account where I have some Treasury bonds. Very safe, just lowest risk you can get. They pay 7.5% every 6 months. That 7.5% goes into a money market fund that's also in the IRA. Out of that fund, I invest in very risky mutual funds. That's where I do a lot of my international investing. So I risk with a little bit, but I kept the bulk safe.
Hello.
Hiya.
How are you?
Good. One way to minimize your risk while you learn about investing is to form an investment club. Donna has learned a lot about how to research and buy stocks since joining her mother-in-law's club.
It's primarily a hydroelectric company, and it sells electricity to Idaho, Oregon, and Nevada.
For 10 years, these women of diverse backgrounds have been getting together on a monthly basis to make investment decisions. They each contribute $25 a month. Their portfolio is now worth over $80,000.
We started out with male brokers, trying to assist us and looking to them for advice.
And we found out in the long run we never took his advice. We used our own initiative and we did well.
We found out that we could do our own homework and get a better evaluation.
And I think we probably do much better as women because we're much more conservative, and we do buy things we know about, and we investigate things thoroughly, and we really listen when people talk.
It's like playing Monopoly, only 100 times better. And the more you read, the more interested you become in it.
An investment club is a great place to learn. It's a great place to test your ideas against others. It's a great place to get their ideas. It encourages you to strike out on your own as an investor, and for those reasons, it's just a wonderful idea.
Men tend to take more risks with their investments. They also tend to be hunch players. You know, they go with it with the spur of the moment, the brother-in-law's hot tip. Women tend not to do that. They admit when they don't know something. They're willing to ask questions. They're willing to do research. They take longer to make a decision, but once they've made that decision, they stick with it. Women are perfect long-term investors.
Lolly, however, had to learn about investments in a hurry. When she was 50, her husband had a stroke. Overnight, she became the principal breadwinner and the sole manager of her family's finances.
I had to get in there and learn. I had to get in there and make my money work, but I also had to be very, very conservative.
Lolly had a good job at a nonprofit agency whose accountant helped her with advice. She found, however, that she was more comfortable asking questions at her bank.
I learned a great deal from my bank that I did not have any knowledge of before.
Back then, CDs were paying 12%, so Lolly invested in them long term. She took care of her husband for 16 years until his death. Now she's focusing on her grandchild, and while CDs are no longer offering such high returns, she still makes conservative choices, T-bills and zero-coupon bonds. She keeps only a little money in the stock market after one mutual fund performed poorly.
Because I was scared, I'm being completely honest with you. I needed to know that my money was guaranteed, my principal. Even if my income was not as large, I needed to know that the principal remained.
What Lolly did is very typical of what most women do. They tend to be very conservative in their investments. Now for Lolly this worked because she was lucky enough to be in CDs at a time when interest rates are very high. But women of all ages really need to learn to become more diverse in their investments.
Having a sound financial base is important for Lolly's security living alone in retirement. It's also important in handling the unexpected. Few of us plan to have our parents to take care of as we and they get older, but it's something that happens to women a lot.
What did you do at the picnic?
At the picnic? Oh, well, first we had a lunch.
It happened to Doreen. Divorced, with no children of her own, a solid career as an attorney for her city, and a roomy old house, she seemed to be the logical choice among her sisters and brother to take care of their father. Now she's feeling like a parent herself.
Now I can kind of sympathize with my friends who have young children particularly. And so there's just some things that you have to do, taking him to the doctor and cooking. I go to work late 2 days a week to take him to the senior center and return at lunch to pick him up to bring him home.
Yet Doreen feels fortunate. Unlike some of her friends, she has a parent who has some resources to offer.
He has a fairly decent retirement, and he gives me a certain contribution each month towards household expenses. I've kind of told him maybe he'll have to increase it since I'm going to have to seek assistance.
Doreen plans to get help with cleaning and yard work. That means she'll also need some extra help from her accountant, filing forms as a household employer. She also has new motivation towards planning for her own retirement.
My father being with me and watching how important it is that you are financially able to take care of yourself. And that's something I think about a lot because I have no children, and I realize that I'm here for my dad and who's going to be there for me. So it's very important that at least that aspect of my life be taken care of.
Once again, it all goes back to getting your financial house in order, starting your planning early, starting to save early. You may want to take off some time from work to take care of this parent. You would have savings to draw on. But you need to think about this and think about it early so that you'll be ready when and if it happens.
Knowing you can never be certain what's down the road is why women need to be ready to take control of their finances, even or especially when you delegate financial matters to a husband, child, accountant, or financial planner. It's important to understand what's going on with your money. It can even be fun.
I love calling the shots. I like paying the bills. I like running a household with 3 children.
Finances haven't always been fun for Marcy. Even though she was trained to teach math, as a homemaker she turned over all financial details to her husband.
Women's Lib was not on the scene. You didn't think like that. You thought in terms of being a helpmate for your husband, and that he took care of all the finances, and he did all of the planning, and you know that, and you trusted him to make good decisions.
That was then, before they wound up declaring bankruptcy. 4 years after that, they divorced, and the family home was threatened by foreclosure.
I got terribly practical. I got very realistic. What is it that I had to do? And the first thing I had to do was save the house. The next thing I had to do was get a full-time job. I was working part-time. The third thing I had to do was maintain some stability for my children. My children were 5, 7, and 11.
Marcy found a bank willing to extend her a loan. Returning to teach full-time, she was able to restore her credit in a retirement plan that she had lost during maternity leaves. With her children now in junior high and high school, she's starting to put together a college fund. And she's even able to start saving for a family trip.
The kids and I would like to go to Hawaii a year from this March. And we have a Hawaii fund. It's only $300 in it, but you know, I can plan down the road a little bit. Thank God I was as young as I was. You know, if it was 10 years later, I'm not sure that I could have salvaged what I've been able to salvage. How would I like to find myself 65, not able to work, the house in foreclosure and no credit? And I mean, it gets terrifying if you think about it.
Women have to be very concerned about retirement security for the simple reason that women live longer than men. Most of them did not work as many years as men because their work career was probably interrupted occasionally by child rearing, changes of jobs, things of that sort. So they don't have the career lifetime earnings that a man has. They probably don't have as much accumulated in pension rights. That's why they have to take charge of their own retirement security even more than men do.
Have financial goals and have a plan for reaching those goals. Have an emergency cash cushion so that there's something to fall back on when you need it. And also invest or save regularly, no matter how small the amount. Put something aside every month so that you're building towards your financial future.
Taking control of your budget, identifying your goals, making investments, planning for retirement, and for the unexpected. It's an ongoing process. It's essential. And women are just as good or bad at it as men.
The one thing that women really need to know about money is that there's no secret to managing it. There's no secret to investing. There's nothing that men are born with that make them inherently better at this. It's all a matter of getting the information, learning about the subject, and having confidence in your own ability and your own decisions.